This is the Confident One Conshizzy podcast. We have royalty in the building. A queen, fitness queen, soccer queen, wellness queen, radio queen, Chiki in the building. Is the crown heavy, Chiki?
I was about to say, I'm not often called a queen, a hoe maybe, an annoyance often, loud every day, but a queen, no, so I'll take it. Is the crown heavy? I didn't know I had it, so I'm just going to say,
heavy?
Oh, clearly not, clearly not. I just try and bring positivity and good vibes.
Yes.
And I think that is the lightest thing you can do for the universe.
Absolutely. Speaking about bringing, positivity, your humanitarian, passion and projects.
Yeah.
You've been working with always, trying to inspire girls, inspire confidence in girls.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What sparked that humanitarian heart?
So my mum is a lawyer,
yes.
and she fights for discrimination.
Yes.
So any form of discrimination. And there are some things that are my lived experience. I am Black, I am a woman. So it's very easy for me to speak confidently on those two issues. I also believe in, I hate discrimination, I hate inequality, I believe in equal rights for everyone.
Yes.
But it's much easier for me to speak on something that is my lived experience than to speak on something that is not my lived experience. And I just find that coming to this continent, being backwards and forwards my whole life from this continent, in the UK where I was brought up, there is so much of an awareness and a freedom that comes with, wear what you want. I remember when I came here, and first and foremost, we have smart casual attire for most of our business interactions.
Yes.
So I remember turning up to meetings in jeans and people looking at me. So
what's wrong with her?
What the hell is wrong with this woman? She's not serious. She doesn't want our business. And I just kept thinking to myself, whoa, I see some scruffy men everywhere, but I don't see scruffy women. So even just on a really small level, I noticed within a week that inequality is high.
Yes.
And this is in an urban city like Nairobi. Imagine then what's like in, the townships. Imagine what it's like in Kakamega, in, Luoland, in all those different places. So I just kept thinking to myself, I need to speak on this because it is my lived experience, and I have been blessed enough to have the freedom to express myself. So how do I not tell people what is right or wrong? Only one individual, yourself, can determine that for you. But at least encourage society and encourage women to be aware that they have choices. Choices are available, and you should be entitled to choices in the same way that men are entitled to choices. That's not saying that they're going to make the same choices, but the choices should definitely be on the table for them.
Okay, cool. You've been confident, being the queen, like you say, like I mentioned.
No, you said.
Yeah, I say. How was it like for you as a young girl, growing up? Did you get in trouble because you knew what you wanted? You stated what you wanted clearly. Did that get you into trouble? Authorities, parents,
Yeah, parents know. I mean, if you think I'm confident, my mom is confidence on steroids.
Yeah.
So definitely not. In areas of business sometimes. So what I tended to find, so I've worked in so many different industries, but mainly music-based, arts-based industries.
Yes.
So whenever it came to something like being in the boardroom, so no longer being the entertainer, now started being the entrepreneur, being in boardrooms where you'd have maybe like a 50, 60-year-old, often in the UK, white man, and then you've got me, gobby, young, Black female coming in and being like, well, I think that's a little bit of a dated approach, or I think we could do that differently. I think people didn't even know how to take that at the time, and still don't really know how to take that. I'm not really going to mention any media houses.
Yes.
But since being here, I have been told to my face, verbatim, you can't say it like that. He's a traditional man. You need to tone it down. And to be able to just say very comfortably, he's a traditional man. You can't say it like that. I'm like, sorry, am I his wife? Like, why are you telling me that? I've just come to do my job.
Yes.
So definitely up until this point, being a loud-mouthed woman has gotten me into trouble.
Having a voice. It's not been loud, having a voice.
Oh, but I'm also quite loud.
Yes.
So having a voice and being loud, I guess, has gotten me into trouble. I don't have the lived experience of a man, so I can't compare and contrast, but I can definitely say statements like, oh, he's a traditional man, you can't say that, is definitely not something my male counterparts have experienced hearing.
Okay. Chiki the brand, you are sought after, Chiki.
Yeah.
You're doing partnerships with major brands. Someone said some time back, if someone likes you, they will buy from you.
Yeah.
They will support you. But if they trust you, they will do business with you.
Okay.
How have you been able to, mold your brand into this trusted brand that's Chiki for you to partner with these big brands globally?
I think there are three things that I realized. I will always invest in myself first and foremost. So I think often people get confident and comfortable in whatever they do. So like coming here and seeing your cups and all your branded stuff, I was like, awesome, because I think if you don't trust in yourself, getting another brand to trust in you is damn near impossible. So if you're willing to put your own money where your mouth is behind yourself, then it has a big message to brands out there. So I've really always tried to do that. I think consistency is key. So it's always been, let's just keep doing stuff and then build on that stuff rather than jumping in, jumping out, jumping in, jumping out. And I think being authentic for me is vital. So I am never gonna say something just because a brand has asked me to say something. I'm never gonna say something just because my boss has asked me to say something. I'm always gonna try and be authentic because I believe in it.
Yes.
So I think brands know that and trust that. If I'm working with you, I'm going to guard you like I'm going to guard one of my people. Do you see what I mean? And I think there's some kind of trust and security in knowing that that's the type of person that you're dealing with.
Okay.
And professionalism. If you're in a market where people don't respond to emails, if they do, it's in 3 words.
Don't return calls.
Don't return calls. Don't pick up calls.
Yes.
Don't give proper invoicing. Don't give a proper breakdown strategy of what it is that you want to do. Automatically, you look more trustworthy. Whether you are or not is secondary, but automatically you look more trustworthy than someone who's called, yeah, man, so... Unajua, it'd be nice to, partner on this thing, not a formalized thing. So I also try and keep things professional, formal.
And I can attest to that. So we've done business before and you're super professional.
Yeah.
So being a brand comes with challenges, of course. And one thing about being a brand is your privacy and how you also, guard your privacy and, revolve around, just maneuver the whole thing. How do you protect your privacy, Chiki? Because you're a brand, you're known. How do you draw that line?
Yeah, that's
Chiki the brand, Chiki the person, the private person.
And I think I don't necessarily know if I've really cracked or answered that yet. What I try and do is be authentic, but be authentic means to not filter. But then you have to filter because you can't let everyone into your entire life. I try and show the highs with the lows, but then also because I think it's really dangerous to just show perfection all the time. I try and show, look, I feel crap today.
You need to be vulnerable sometimes.
I'm vulnerable, So, but then... Also, when you're vulnerable, sharing it on a public platform sometimes isn't the healthiest thing to do. So I'm not 100% sure that I've cracked that. But one thing I do know is anything between my husband and I really keep private.
That's private,
I might post every so often that we're together, but you will never know intimate details about my relationship. I will pay 10,000 shillings for someone to find a wedding picture of mine. They don't exist.
So let's talk about that.
We never put them out.
You did a phenomenal wedding, colorful, but we didn't see any photos, Chiki.
No.
Are we going to see some soon?
No.
Why is that?
Because I didn't marry the world. I married my husband. And I felt we felt like people, unfortunately, have so many opinions, good and bad. And I think... if you put stuff out there, be prepared for both. Be prepared for the good and be prepared for the bad. But for my wedding, I'm not prepared for other people's opinions. I'm not interested in other people's opinions. And I definitely think if you put something out there, you have to be willing to take the...
Guys will talk.
Guys will talk. And I'm not willing to have conversations about a day that was private and that was special.
All right.
So if Kenyans were kinder, maybe we would have put it out there. But because y'all have things to say, we decided to keep it to ourselves.
The reason you didn't put out photos is because Kenyans are brutal.
No, the world is brutal. And the thing is, we're in such a vulnerable time right now. People are hurting and people are always looking for an outlet for their pain. And when you're seeing happiness, it's the easiest outlet because if you're not happy, definitely you're pissed at the person that's happy. So we just didn't want to put ourselves in that position. We just felt it's our business, keep it to ourselves.
And a private life is a happy life.
Is it? Not necessarily. People who are struggling with, let me give a trigger warning before I say this. People who are struggling with domestic violence normally tend to keep it very private. People who are struggling with depression normally tend to keep it private. So I don't necessarily think privacy equates to happiness, but I definitely think that you have to be very aware of the moves that you make. And we were very aware that if we put our wedding pictures out there, it would have some positive responses and some negative responses, and we were not interested in either.
But I believe they're stunning.
Huh?
I believe the photos are stunning.
I hope so.
You haven't looked at them?
I haven't. That's the funniest thing. My photographer,
serious?
He still has them. It's creepy, right? My mum hasn't seen them. My mother-in-law hasn't seen them. And when everyone entered our wedding, our biggest cost was security. Everyone's phone was taken away. So no one has personal pictures on their phone because no one was allowed a phone. In fact, we had so many people leave their phone behind because we had an open bar.
Okay.
So many people left their phone because they were just drunk by that time.
Wow. Do you trust the photographer?
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
With the photos?
Yes.
He might lick them, Chiki.
I would.
For $1 million, you know?
Yeah, very much. I think he's financially.
$1,000.
I think he's all right. I think he doesn't need the money. I think he's all right. I think our friendship is worth $1 billion. And if someone was paying him $1 billion, I would leak them too. I would take the $1 billion. So yeah, I think he's all right.
Wow. Okay, cool. I'm hoping to see some soon, maybe. But your kids, of course, maybe in future.
Kids? Yeah.
They will see the pics, of course.
Oh, my kids, will they see the pics? I mean, I looked hot. So when I'm haggard, I have to be able to prove there was a day that mommy didn't look like this. So yeah, of course, our kids will see this.
That's good to hear. So you have a podcast out.
Yes.
Spoiled, the podcast.
Spoiled and Spill.
And Spill. About body confidence and dance. Talk to us about that.
So the podcast is actually, the first episode is about body confidence and dance, but the podcast in its entirety is coming together with strong women that I really respect for season 1. I'm on the fence as to whether to add men to season 2.
You need to add men. I need to be on it.
Yeah, we might put you in some makeup, shave your beard and see kind of if we can like slide you in.
I'm down for you.
I'm down for it. No, so it's about speaking with phenomenal women about just different things. So the first one I spoke with Ayoma, she's a phenomenal dancer, but there's so many body confidence issues in the dance industry globally. Yeah. So I just wanted to draw some light on that. And given the fact that she's still very much a dancer in the public eye, see what her experience was.
Yes.
I know her personally, and spoiler, because we do talk about this in the podcast, she did go through a moment where she stopped eating, and I knew that.
Wow.
So I wanted to have that conversation, knowing that she'd gone through the body confidence issues, and just put it out there on the table. But our second episode is with Wahoo, talking about kids,
parenting,
and
marriage life too.
Marriage to an extent is more about how do you balance your personal life. Same question, but not about social media. How do you balance your personal life with your public life?
Yeah.
How do you stay on top for so long and balance that with longevity, but balance that with being a mom? Can you really have it all? I guess is the kind of context.
Yeah.
We've got Adele Onyango. I mean, it's just phenomenal. She has a great podcast. I was on her podcast. I was one of the first people on her podcast.
That's dope.
Yeah, I loved it.
I'll find the episode.
Spoke about knife crime.
Okay.
Loved it.
All right. Your passion for social justice and human rights, Chiki. I mean, I did an interview with you some time back on radio, and I just picked the passion in you, in you when it comes to social justice and human rights. So did this come from your mom because she's a lawyer? Or how did this come about,
Yeah, that's a good question. Because my dad doesn't give a crap.
Doesn't care about that.
No, my dad is like, as long as I have my dinner, I'm okay. I think partly from my mum.
Yes.
I think it's hard to be able to put my finger on it because I don't know what it's like to have a different mum. I only know what it's like to have my mum.
Okay.
So I can only speak from the perspective of my mum. It has always been very vocal. My mum has always made us feel like we can do everything and anything, but never hidden what the barriers to that entry might be. So explaining them without using them as excuses. But my first job was, no, that's a lie. Like my second job was working in a mental health service.
Okay.
So there was a lot of young people who faced homelessness and as a result of it then got mental ill health. So I dealt with a lot of youth domestic violence, a lot of youth kind of issues.
Yes.
And I was so angry all the time because I knew these kids who the media spoke about in a way, society spoke about in a way, and I just knew them as kids. And I remember just always feeling like, look, if you knew behind the scenes of what was happening, you wouldn't speak about them like that. You would treat them differently. And I think I've always been quite hippie-ish. I've always believed in free love, equal love. Love is love.
Love is love. Love wins.
Love wins, exactly. And what does that mean in communities? What does that mean in societies?
Yeah.
And I'm challenged every single day coming to Kenya and seeing how labor is paid so low in comparison to how labor is paid in the UK. Challenged me yet again, because it was like, look, am I going to do that? I fundamentally disagree with it. Am I going to then repeat that pattern and pay people poorly? But then if I want to start my business off the ground, everyone will be like, this person will take this, this person will take that.
This, yeah.
Just because this person will take this, does that mean it's right to give someone that? So I think I'm constantly kind of challenging myself and challenging society on what is right, what is fair, not what is normal, not what is happening. Those are two different things.
Yes.
What is correct? My latest one is house helps and security guards. And I'm speaking so loudly about how sickening it is to me how poorly house helps and security guards are paid. I don't understand how someone who has a something million shilling car can pay a house help 7K a month. How do you justify that? How do you go to bed at night and feel comfortable?
Paying $70.
Paying $7. How do you expect communities to grow? How do you expect economies to grow when the heartbeat of communities are working people? Working people are house helps, are security guards, are those kinds of people. So if we're not paying them well, we can't be complaining when we have a corrupt society. So that's my current one.
Okay, cool. So what was dinner like for you with your mom,
Dinner?
Dinner like, yeah. What was dinner like for you guys? What did you talk about?
I thought you were going to ask about the food.
We've got to get into that.
She's not the best cook.
All right.
Let me just disclaimer, she's not the best cook.
All right. Are you a better cook than her?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And these days she's a bit better, actually, because once she retired, she spent a lot of time cooking.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just didn't have the time. My mom was like a boss-ass bitch. She was so busy often that, she didn't really have the time. What was dinner like?
Yes.
My mum is a disciplinarian. My dad is a disciplinarian. So it would be, have you done your homework?
What is the weapon of choice for her?
Oh, okay. So my parents like psychological abuse much more than physical abuse.
Yeah.
So it'd be more things like, you will clean your room. When I come home, your room better be clean. So let's just say one day she comes home, my room's not clean. She'll say nothing. Which I remember this like it was yesterday. She said nothing. And I'm like, I got away with it, man. Mum didn't even shout. And my mum's loud as well. So mum didn't shout. She didn't cuss me out. She didn't do anything.
Yes.
Believe you me, the next day I came home, the only thing remaining in my room was my school uniform, some books, and one pair of weekend clothes. Wait, she had given everything else to charity.
Wow.
It's not like she had hidden, she had given everything else to charity. And what she had said is, if you can't take care of your stuff, I'll give them to people who will. So yeah, my parents had that kind of more psychological.
On that night, did you guys have dinner? Of course you did. What did you talk about?
Okay, so my mum's not emotional, so she wasn't very good at sitting down and holding my hand and being like this is what you did wrong. I feel like in the future.
Yes.
My mum is still black. It was just punishment and go. It wasn't anything else. But she'd talk a lot. She spoke to us like we were adults. So she would speak a lot about her cases at work, her work day.
Yes.
I think she did most of the talking because I'm struggling to remember a moment where I was like, Mummy, so-and-so said this at school. I think it was more like, this was the cases, what do you think? I guess that's what made us quite just individuals, because from the start she'd be like, there's a Ghanaian woman who's being paid less than a white woman. What do you think of it? So we'd have those kind of intellectual conversations at dinner time, as opposed to, today my teacher said, no, that wasn't really our vibe.
Okay. Yeah. So she's been instrumental in your passion, for social justice and human rights. Yeah,
I guess so. Now that you've said it, I've never. Shout out to you, Mum.
Yes.
I've never really.
I know she'll be watching. Shout out, Mum. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I've never really considered it like that, but yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Mental health, Chiki. I mean, you're also very vocal about it. You talk a lot about it, and I was just thinking, how do you identify feelings and talk about them in your personal experience? Is it easy for you?
To talk about my feelings?
Yeah.
Oh,
Identify feelings.
Yeah, no, I'm horrible. If you look at my goal list every year, it's how to be more emotionally aware and how to have conversations. No, I'm awful. I'm much better at picking up other people's kind of like vulnerabilities than even necessarily being aware of my own. So no, I'm crap.
Okay.
Do I ever really talk about my feelings? Not really. I can't even remember the last time I said, you hurt me. I'm not really that. I'm more like, can I swear?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. I'm more like, you're and then keep it moving.
All right. Wow. Okay. But don't you think that's living in a bubble? Like the bubble can burst, and the feelings, just...
Okay, but you're assuming that I don't deal with them.
How do you deal with them?
So for me, I meditate every single morning. I really believe in gratitude.
Yes.
So starting off the day by thinking of something that you're grateful for. So it also puts you in a slightly different headspace because it's very easy for you to be like, oh man, my Ascari took 3 extra minutes to open the front gate. What a shit Ascari, and to get pissed off about that.
Yes.
When you wake up thinking, God, how fortunate I am to have a roof over my head, to have legs, to have arms, and just to be thankful for the really minute things, it changes your perspective.
It does.
I'm an athlete, so the only way you can be an athlete is like you let it out often in the motion. So dance for me has always been a great way of letting things out. Running has always been a great way of letting things out.
Okay.
And you just find solutions often, and not even consciously, like your subconscious kind of takes over. So I'll be on the running machine and kind of halfway through, something that had really pissed me off when I had entered doesn't really seem that important halfway through. So by the time I go then to have a conversation about it, it's not from the perspective of you've hurt me. It's more from the perspective of, okay, look, I've really thought about this.
Yes.
This I feel like is a fair conclusion for me. This would be a great solution. The other person might say, well, yes or no, but I'm not emotionally engaged in it anymore.
It's about you. It's about you. It's about your wellness.
Okay, and finding some form of compromise, but from the perspective of logic as opposed to from the perspective of pain. Because a lot of people converse when they're angry or when they're pissed off, and normally it's not actually that helpful to do that.
Interesting. So the link between mental health and physical health. Do you think, as an instructor, a coach, a fitness coach, do you think, how do we link the two? Mental
There's no
health,
distinction.
There's no distinction.
There's absolutely no distinction. And I think for a long time that distinction has been drawn because you see physical health.
Yes.
You see someone limping. You see someone with a broken arm. You see it.
Yeah.
But there's more and more evidence to suggest that mental health has physical kind of, there will be some form of physical component to it.
You might
say. Stress, for example, stress changes your heart rate, changes even
your body weight.
Your body weight, changes your sleep patterns, changes all of those kinds of things. So for me, it's one of the same thing. And I do struggle when people still talk about fitness just from the perspective of physical or mental health just from the perspective of psychological. Like you just asked me a question about how I deal with my emotions, and I went straight to a physical answer because for me, the two are so interlinked with one another that you can't remove the two from one another. So we should be striving for people to find coping mechanisms and realize that those coping mechanisms are interconnected, interrelated.
I hope guys are watching and listening right now and they're like, you just inspire them to, do that.
I hope so. I mean, there's nothing better when you've had an argument with your spouse or a friend or a colleague to take a long walk. Honestly, solutions find themselves, and not even thinking about the problem. Just taking a walk, putting in your music. At some point, your subconscious takes over and you find some form of solution because your mind and your body are engaged with one another. Depression. I mean, it's the most frustrating, annoying thing under the sun. But often when someone is depressed, a doctor will be like, have you done your exercise?
Exactly,
what are you eating? Okay, that's not necessarily true if you have a dopamine deficiency, which is kind of like a biological component of depression. But so many mental health issues have physical connectivities, and for us to talk about them separately is doing them both a disservice.
And how do you deal with the stigma around talking about mental health? You know, people are not so eager to talk about mental health, you know, bipolar, depression, all these things, you know. How do we deal with that stigma?
It's a few things. First of all, we need to be more educated.
Yes.
I think it petrifies me as someone who has done a lot of work with mental health. Sometimes when I talk to professionals, in inverted commas, and they say things that are actually incorrect. So what that does is it kind of creates a pattern of incorrect knowledge. So first of all, we need to be more educated. If you're going to open your mouth, know that what you're saying is correct, as opposed to, I think this, or one day on a blog I read this. Often, that's a very dangerous road to go down. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, again, mental health is not in isolation. So if we spoke about men and women differently, if we had different expectations of men and women, if for a man to cry wasn't considered a weakness.
Being weak.
If for a woman to be alpha wasn't considered aggression, it'd then be much easier to have natural conversations, especially for men, about being low, about being depressed, about being all of those things. So societies in general, communities in general, need to do better by its citizens and allow its citizens to just be who the hell they want to be, without all the labels, the boxes, the stereotypes that are attached to them. Because it then allows you to honestly say, without fear of what the reaction is going to be, I feel shit, or I can't sleep, or I'm hurt that...
I'm hurt. Maybe someone just said something off to me.
Someone said something off to me. And it doesn't have to be anything more than I'm hurt. And then I think the final thing is, we need to know that there is a wellness component to mental health, and there's a biological component to mental health. So in general, I'm not a huge fan of medication. However, I'm aware that if you are born with a dopamine deficiency, so to give you some terminology, there's endogenous and exogenous. Endogenous is stimuli outside of your, exogenous is stimuli outside of your body that contributes to your mental state. Endogenous is something that happens internally. So there are many people who are born with different biological things that contribute to mental ill health. Things like schizophrenia, things like bipolar, things like certain types of
Alzheimer's
depression.
too.
Alzheimer's is a little bit different. It's a degenerative mental disorder. I'm talking about like mental health in when it comes to the connection with things like emotion and being able to live effectively in communities. Alzheimer's tends to be something that happens as a degenerative thing later on in life.
Right? It's genetic, I guess. It is.
There's a suggestion that there's a genetic component.
Yes.
There's a genetic, there's a hereditary component, like some form of genetic component.
Right.
But it's degenerative. But something like depression, some people are born with dopamine deficiency. Something like schizophrenia.
So it's not even up to them.
It's not even up to anything. It's medicine needs to be able to support that. Schizophrenia is another great example. A lot of people are very angry at marijuana because they say that like, this person is mad, they must have smoked bangy. But what a lot of studies show, in fact, that you would have had some form of dormant schizophrenic something in you that marijuana brought out, but it could have been something else. It could have been trauma. It could have been whatever. So we just also need to know the difference between exogenous and endogenous and not try and treat them as the same. It's pointless telling someone who has a dopamine deficiency to go for a walk, you're going to feel better.
It won't happen.
It won't happen. And that's when you start seeing people frustrated because the solutions that are being given are incorrect solutions. So being more educated, know what mental health is, know what mental wellness is. They're different things. And just being better people to one another.
So we need to raise more awareness about mental health.
We just need to talk
about it, just make it a casual conversation.
And then call bullshit on professionals that say things that are just incorrect.
I'm down for that.
Honestly, I had someone on my show once, not mentioning any names.
All right, you shouldn't.
She said,
we don't want to.
If you continue with your depression, you'll end up getting schizophrenia. I was like, what? Sorry, that's wrong, incorrect. And she was one of the biggest professionals in the country. And I was like, if that's what a professional is saying, a huge professional.
What about someone in the village?
What about someone in the village? What about someone in the hood?
Yeah.
We need to challenge we need better education. We need more up-to-date education.
And this got me thinking about social media negativity. You're so active on social media on your Instagram at Chiki Kuruka, and you post a lot. How do you deal with social media bullies and this negativity out here? Because it's too much sometimes. Do you get that yourself?
Okay, I'm fortunate. Two things. There was a phrase that I read once, and it's very true. Sometimes we spend so long focused in on the 10 minutes that were bad in our day, that we forget all the other minutes that were phenomenal in our day. And I think overwhelmingly, social media tends to be like that for most people. So you might get like 100 great comments, but why is it that we always want to focus on the two
that are negative, yeah.
My feeling is I really believe in free speech. So if someone wants to come and troll you, this isn't an ego space. This isn't a space for you to come for everyone to love you. That's not what social media is. So if that's what you've gone there for, that's not the right space. You have to be prepared for the good with the bad when you post something, which is why I haven't posted my wedding pictures. However, if you have the freedom to speech to troll me, I have the freedom of speech to slap you the hell back. And it works both ways.
Exactly, yeah.
And I enjoy the shit out of that. I am petty as hell. Like, that is so much fun to me. Like, someone would just say something like, oh, you look old. I'll be like, your mama's old. Like, I really love getting into those kind of petty arguments. But I do it normally to show that as a woman in particular, because normally the people that troll me are kind of like middle-aged men or insecure girls. So I always want to show two things. First and foremost, your insecurity can't affect me. You deal with your insecurity, but don't bring it to me because I'm really not interested in it. If you're looking for support, I'm the person for. But don't try and do that thing of I'm like bouncing back my insecurity and trying to give it to you. For a man, I'm like, oh, bring it on. That's my favorite sparring partner right there because I've already got beef with you. Just in version of your genitalia. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no. So normally, if it's something like, oh, you're a wife now, you shouldn't wear that. That is people say that to you? What? That is my moment to shine. Watch me start posting flipping URLs from websites. What does it mean to be a wife? Read this. What does it mean? Because I think you have to challenge stupid comments. You have to. And
stupid thinking.
And stupid thinking. And I do it like that. When someone reads my page, you haven't hurt me. I mean, I'm too comfortable in my own skin. By the time I've posted something, I'm ready for whatever comments you have. You haven't hurt me, but I am going to educate you. If you think it's okay to say a wife shouldn't wear this, just as a woman, I'm going to tell you you're wrong, and I'm going to give you the reasoning behind it. So bullies doesn't really affect me so much, to be honest. Just because I'm blessed enough to have predominantly positive comments. I have thick skin. I have a happy home. I have a wonderful family. I have great friends. I don't care about Thomas _X92 who probably was messaging from the toilet.
But they usually have some very funny handles. You can't even read the handle.
They normally have one follower and 0 pictures. No, that doesn't bother me.
Okay. That's the spirit, Chiki. So you are a fan of reading. You just said you're a fan of
Paulo Coelho, yeah.
Yes. What are you currently reading, and what do you think is the biggest hurdle when it comes to reading with us Africans and Kenyans? Maybe it's an African thing. People don't like reading.
Nah, it's not an African thing.
It's a global thing. Let's say it's a global.
Yeah, that's not an African thing.
Most Africans don't like reading that much.
People who have been brought up in a digital age don't like reading that much, irrespective of where you were born. Because in the UK, try and find someone who reads is probably just as difficult as trying to find someone who reads here. I think for me, I'm reading a book right now. I think it's called She Can. Probably butchered the name of the book because it might not be that at all.
All right. We can look it up.
It's about a girl from Uganda who's being told consistently that her job is to be a wife, blah, 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 blah. And she challenges all of that. Awesome book. It's actually what I do with my sister. So, because she lives in the UK and I live here, we read the same book at the same time. And once a week we do reviews based on the chapters. I was actually doing that on my way here. We're doing our chapters. And we take it really seriously, by the way. If it's like, you must read up to chapter 30, like watch me sweating in the evening, like I'm nowhere near chapter 30. So,
are you taking new members? I want to be a member of the book club.
That's just me and my sister. Maybe my mom. She's kind of feeling salty that she's not involved.
All right.
I think I think people struggle to read, but I think sometimes the differences behind it are radically different. So like I go back to someone who's earning 7,000 shillings a month. Don't forget, we're in Nairobi, we're middle class. We represent 2 to 3% of the population. We don't represent the majority of the population. If someone is struggling to pay rent, water,
food,
bills, tell them to go and buy a book. I mean, that's an absolute luxury. So I think you can't. So I think, and then this is someone who doesn't have electricity, who's using paraffin most of the time for lighting. So when are they going to read in the first place?
They're going to use the book to light.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that's why often in Africa in general, there's a problem outside of urban spaces. There's a problem with reading because just the affordability is non-existent. The priority is, it's just not a priority. If you've been brought up with a smartphone where you have access to information, internet, fast, reading is a labor of love, right? So it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on your reading speed, to read a book. To go on your phone and find an answer for something, or if you're reading because you want to fall in love with characters, to watch a movie and fall in love with characters in 2 hours, it's just a slower way to get the same kind of gratification. I think the idea that reading improves your vocabulary. Of course, reading strengthens. You're a quick thinker? I'm a very, exactly. Reading makes you a quick thinker. Reading develops your emotional knowledge as well, because you get into the mind of a character, whether you agree with them or not. You go through the journey with them slowly, which I mean, I've learned so much about humans from books that I would never learn from a film, because I'm like going through them as they grow up slowly but surely, you know? Even keeping your mind alert and active. The brain is a muscle. So to be able to read, I think, is a gift. But I also can understand why, if you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you don't care about improving your vocabulary. By the way, you're not even looking for a job. You're in a dark spot. Or maybe you have a good job. I try as much as possible not to say what I think is right should be what everyone thinks is right. If you don't want to read, don't read. I read for A, B, C, D reasons. I think it's dope. Okay, that's amazing. I guess we need to encourage this generation, digital generation, I guess, to read more often. Do we though? I think all we can do is talk about the things that are effective for us. And if you think that that's also going to be effective for you, I think it will. Then, but who knows? Because we all think our way is the best way of doing this. Every generation thinks their music is better than the next generation. Mine is better. We used real live instruments. Mine is better because the argument goes on. So I also try as much as possible not to have a one-way approach. This is my way. If you say that you would like better vocabulary, this is a solution I can give you because it has worked for me. If you want to take it, great. It's probably also just as effective as going and reading a thesaurus, or, there's many ways to skin a cat. So I think what we should stop doing is having this authoritarian approach. Let's tell young people this. If you want to alienate young people, start telling them shit. Or just in general, start telling them shit. Walk with them. What is the issue? Understand them. What is the issue? This is a great solution that I have found. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it won't. All right, great. I hope they're listening and taking notes.